angels waging war in the unseen realm. Global events fulfilling biblical prophecy. Eternal life. What lies beyond mortality? From analyzing the paranormal from a biblical worldview to the discussion of cutting-edge science and technology, conspiracy, discovery, special investigative reports. Unafraid to explore the challenging issues facing humanity. Welcome to another edition of Skywatch TV.
You may be sabotaging your own personal walk through life. Welcome to Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert. We've got a very important and inspiring, I think, series of programs dealing with a new book that explains why you may not feel as well as you would like to feel. It is the book TIMEBOMB, which deals with the relationship between your health, and what you're putting into yourself. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, but most of us don't spend enough time thinking about what's actually in, the stuff that's on our plate. Joining us, the authors of the book, first a professional fitness and nutrition specialist, the COO of Skywatch TV, and the best-selling author of the groundbreaking book, Dead Pets Don't Lie, Joe Horn.
Hi, Derek.
His co-author, certified private investigator, and the lady who keeps us all on task and organized here at Skywatch TV and our sister ministries, Whispering Ponies Ranch and Defender Publishing, Allie Anderson.
Hi.
And an expert in nutritional health, holds a Master's of Science in Traditional Oriental Medicine and a certified natural health professional, Dr. Ralph Umbriaco.
Good day,
Dr. Ralph. Joe, we talked a bit about why or what you hope to accomplish by writing TIMEBOMB in our previous program. Tell us a little bit about the personal motivation. What was it that inspired you or got you thinking about the relationship between what's in our food and what's going on inside our bodies?
My personal journey began with my personal time bomb. And this is a very long story. I will try to collapse it because we don't have a lot of time today. But going back to my late 20s, I started developing symptoms. I would get chronic prostatitis, nausea, and I would continue to see my primary care physicians long enough to then see specialists and eventually neurologists. They would run urethral scopes, colonoscopies, what's going on with his gut. I had a terrible time digesting food, and all of it was chalked up to be things like irritable bowel syndrome. You'll be fine. It's genetic. A lot of people live like this. And so I continued to seek answers. My wife would kind of probe around what's going on with him, why all the inflammation, why all of the pain. As the years would go on, this would become more and more, instead of just occasionally having a brain fog or just feelings of chronic fatigue, despite however much I would sleep, just feeling drained and depleted, even on the days where my guts didn't necessarily hurt. This whole myriad of symptoms would just kind of fluctuate. And again, I'd go back to my primary care. What's up? I'm only late 20s now. Shouldn't I have more energy? And I was not overweight. I was very active in my lifestyle. I would find out later I was burning my adrenals, which is a whole other program. But my body was using adrenaline to get through the day, which was aiding itself to the chronic fatigue and so forth. Like many of you watching this program are starting to scratch your head, wait a minute, I feel tired all the time. I got to drink Red Bulls in order to get through the day. These were all things I did minus the energy drinks. This would, and again, this is a long story, but this would eventually lend itself to diagnosis that I received over the last decade, painful bladder syndrome. Just violent burning in my bladder for no apparent reason, which would lead to more urethral scopes and more CT scans of what's going on. Well, we don't know. You just get chronic prostatitis. Some of it's kind of personal. I'm not sure everybody would enjoy every little gruesome detail, but very painful.
I'm sure they would not, because we have heard much of this.
Yes, yeah. But again,
but let's just say it's not. He's not had an easy road to hoe. I mean, we're laughing about this, but this is a gentleman that we work with every day, and we see over the last couple of years how this has affected him. And we're only seeing the last. Josh, you can attest to this. We've only seen the last couple of years of this journey that Joe has been on for a long, long time. That's manifested and resulted in this book. So, just from the last couple of years in which we've known you,
right.
You're a young man. I mean, technically speaking, I hate to admit this, you're young enough to be my son, and you should not be feeling, as often as you do, older than I typically feel in a given day. So, but there are a lot of people out there who complain about these things,
right.
and who are sadly, at my age, and I'm middle 50s,
right.
are already behaving like people who were in their
right.
70s and 80s a couple of generations ago.
And I want to mention for the record that not one specialist, not that I'm attacking them, this is a fact, not one of them ever talked to me about diet, lifestyle. Not one time.
Yeah.
I even asked, would anything, no, it's hereditary, it's genetic, it's whatever. And so let me get to the point. My time bomb finally goes off. And I struggled for years with a disease called diverticulosis. Mm-hmm. It's weak spots in the colon, allows for bacteria to hibernate and then eventually become infected. And then you have massive fevers, massive pain. This is treated with antibiotics, but every time you do it, it has a kind of a point of diminished returns. And there's this time bomb where I was told by the time you get your third infection, most people it ends up chronic and they have to have part of their colon cut out. Mm-hmm. So this goes on and on and on, the inflammation, the pains, the chronic issues with being able to digest food, fatigue, just muscling through life, not having energy to play with my kids. And finally, I agree. This is my big moment. I'm going to get my life back. I've agreed to the surgery. They removed 16 inches of my colon, and to collapse the year of that recovery was a much harder recovery than was advertised. And I began to gain some concern when none of that fixed my problem. My quality of life was not ideal, and I do want to premise, I realize there are people out there right now, some of them are watching this program, are suffering greater than I ever did.
Let me interject here, because I know, Joe, that you're not one who is asking for pity, and I can say this as somebody who sees Joe off the camera here, so he's not asking for that kind of sympathy, but I think your frustration, if I can try to play psychoanalyst here, comes from
Sure.
the fact that a lot of this, and Dr. Umbriaco, I want to throw this to you in this as the next question here, is kind of, to use a sports metaphor, sort of an own goal. In other words, it's self-inflicted because of choices, because of nutritional choices.
Nutritional choices, but also total lack of information. That is the whole point
Right.
behind Time Bomb, because it's way bigger than gut issues. It's
Right.
way bigger than your colon. What I found out, my good buddy Mark Taylor, I find out he's had chronic issues. His life was down the same path, very similar stories. Finally, he deals with a doctor from a holistic, kind of naturopathic perspective. And it's like the light bulb goes on. And now all of a sudden, all of the questions that he had, a lot of them start falling into place, and he finds out through natural treatments, he's able to turn his entire life around. Now, to my wife's credit, she had spent 2 years, Joe, you've got to talk to somebody naturopathic. You've got to find a homeopathic. You've got to find a chiropractor that also studies herbal medicine. You've got to talk to somebody else. Well, babe, I love you, but man, I got real problems. So I would keep going to the specialists. And again, this is not about being negative on the special. I'm just telling you there is a path out there to disease that our medicine has not kept up with. It's called the fact that our food source is completely diseased, even from 1 decade ago, what's happening to our food, what it's doing to our bodies. And our traditional primary care institutions, our traditional Western medicine institutions are not equipped to understand, or certainly not equipped to help you actually heal. They're doing symptom management through pharmaceuticals and things like this. It doesn't make them nefarious. It doesn't make them evil. We know some wonderful Christian doctors. But what I found out was that underlying, and this is why cutting out half my colon was never going to help me, the underlying issue was called Leaky Gut Syndrome, and it had everything in the world to do with my inability to digest food.
Dr. Ralph, we touched on leaky gut syndrome in a previous program. What is the relationship between what we're eating and what's in what we're eating, and this condition that manifests in symptoms like Joe has exhibited for years?
Yeah, good question. So the body's looking for raw material in order to be able to make a repair or to maintain health. If you get subnutrition, then your ability to draw from that nutrition in order to make the repair happen is also diminished as well. Historically, throughout most cultures, the gut tube has been viewed as either the river of life or the river of death. And it really has to do with what you're putting down river. That's going to result in whatever it is you want or what you don't want. For a lot of people, they have a hard time understanding how the gut tube works. Let me, if I can, give you one illustration that might open your eyes as to how things can get stuck inside the gut tube. My wife is a colon hydrotherapist. And for those who don't know, a colon hydrotherapist is somebody who helps you detoxify the gut tube. So they'll do an irrigation, they'll put a hose, from the behind. And then what will happen is they will run a certain amount of water through there to stimulate and to cleanse the inside lining of the gut tube. Well, one time my wife shared with me that she had a woman on her table who was in her mid-50s. And my wife was sitting down, to her left was this woman, and they were in conversation together, but the woman could look at the unit for colon hydrotherapy, which is mounted on the wall. And there happens to be a view tube where you can keep an eye on what's exiting. Well, the woman, all of a sudden, her jaw drops, and my wife goes over and looks at this woman and stares and sees her expression, and then turns to see what she was looking at. And what goes floating by the view tube was a blue Barbie shoe. And the woman said, she was in her mid-50s. She said, I swallowed that shoe when I was 5 years old.
Wow.
And it was just coming out now because my wife was fishing it out and this woman was interested in cleansing.
Right.
So please don't think that if you eat something and then you have a bowel movement, that things are moving out of the body in a consistent fashion. Some things could be moving out of the body, but many things could be trapped or stuck in the body. And there's a lot of argument about this, which I don't think there should be because it can be shown, but if you have an inability to digest or process your food, then you start getting a buildup. In the same way that calcium and deposits like waxy cholesterol might build up inside the blood vessel wall, like a plaque, right? And it's called mucoid plaque. What it does is it smears the inside of the wall, which is an absorptive surface, and it keeps you from absorbing nutrition, which results in a malnutrition state. So digestive health and emotional health and immune health are intimately intertwined. And if you can clean out what is bothering you, and if you can add what your body's actually looking for, the repair can be made.
Well, we're going to talk about how quickly simple changes can result in changes to how you feel. And again, we'll talk a little bit more for you parents out there, parents and grandparents, how you can make specific changes perhaps for your children and grandchildren that will affect them, not just today, but for the rest of their lives. As we continue discussing this important new book, Time Bomb. Joe Artis-Horn and Allie Anderson, the authors. Dr. Ralph Umbriaco joining us on the expert panel here. We'll tell you how to get the book for your donation and continue the conversation straight ahead on Skywatch TV.
As many as 80% of Americans are carrying a time bomb. A medical crisis in their bodies right now, unaware that they will soon develop prolonged chronic illness, autoimmune disease, or even cancer. Today's frightening truth is citizens are being poisoned every single day without their knowledge. A health epidemic largely brought on by industrialized food is destroying our genetics and immune systems through deadly modified organisms, carcinogenic materials, and life-threatening chemicals commonly found in most of today's processed groceries. Coming this April in the groundbreaking new book, Time Bomb, by Joe Artis-Horn and Allie Anderson. You'll be put in charge of your health once again as commercial marketing games are exposed and the expose of the year unveils how easy it is to avoid toxic ingredients, identify organic and safe foods, and make healthy eating affordable. You will learn how neuroscience is confirming an amazing gut-brain connection that holds the key to maintaining physical, hormonal, emotional, and mental wellness. With powerful insights from health professionals for maintaining superior physiology and reversing chronic illness without a weight loss diet. Time Bomb is set to become your most important field guide for avoiding a national health epidemic more pervasive than anyone could have ever imagined. Time Bomb, coming this April.
There is a genocide of deadly processed foods happening right now in the United States, creating a health epidemic more pervasive than anyone ever imagined. But now, you can arm yourself with the knowledge to keep you and your family from becoming its next victim. Skywatch TV is proud to announce the Time Bomb special offer. When you order Time Bomb from the Skywatch TV store, you'll also receive the Time Bomb Companion DVD. This incredible DVD includes special, never-before-released, off-the-record interviews with healthcare professionals like Dr. Ralph Umbriaco, Dr. Joshua Vance, and Dr. Matthew Sams on the current food crisis in the U.S., and tips on how to achieve your optimal physiological health. This DVD is nearly 5 hours in length and also includes the entire Skywatch TV Time Bomb television series with Joe Horn, Ali Anderson, and Derek Gilbert. But that's not all. You'll also receive Eat This and Live for kids. This colorful, fully illustrated book by Dr. Don Colbert walks you step by step through how to begin teaching your kids to love the foods that will love them back. While out shopping, how to avoid deadly toxins in many common kids' foods and household products, what to feed your kids from preschool to preteen, healthy snacks they will love, and what supplements they'll desperately need, and so much more. But the health epidemic isn't just limited to humankind. Also included in this unbelievable special offer, Joe Artis Horn's best-selling book, The Dead Pets Don't Lie Expose, and companion DVD. This shocking book and DVD collection sounds the alarm on the scandalous practices of the commercial pet food industry. Learn how the FDA is allowing big scams where detestable, poisonous pet foods are being passed off as healthy and causing pets to die prematurely. You'll learn everything you need to know in order to quickly read pet food labels and allow your pet to avoid these toxic ingredients. Sold separately, these items hold a retail value of over $100. Yours now for a donation of only $30 plus shipping and handling. Take control today. The Time Bomb special offer is your field guide to avoiding the deadly processed foods and ingredients that are creating a massive wave of health crisis in America. This information covers every member of the family, the adults, children, and even our pets. Begin transforming how you and your family eat and live now. The Time Bomb special offer. Order now at the Skywatch TV store online or call 844-750-4985.
Welcome back to Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert. Nothing like this on Christian television, and we've got even more available at skywatchtv.com. Exclusive web-only content, additional interviews, and programs that don't make it to network television. Daily news updates, weekly looks at science, Into the Multiverse with Josh Peck, Sci Friday with Sharon K. Gilbert. You'll find those only at skywatchtv.com and the Skywatch TV channels on Roku, Apple TV, and YouTube. We're talking with the authors of the new book, Time Bomb, Joe Artis Horn and Ali Anderson, Dr. Ralph Umbriaco, an expert on the connection between nutrition and wellness. How quickly, Dr. Ralph, does a change in diet manifest in a better sense of well-being, just feeling better?
Yeah, excellent. So it's kind of interesting because tissues turn over at different rates. Some tissues slower, some tissues faster. So brain tissue, for instance, it can take years and years and years to regenerate. It's a very slow process. They used to think it couldn't regenerate at all, especially in the central nervous system, and now they're finding out that's simply not true. But inside the gut tube, you have what's called a mucosal lining, and it starts from your mouth. This is your skin, and the skin will come over and turn into the mouth. It's still a tube. People don't understand that the tube running through your body is a tube running through your body, like a tunnel running through a mountain. It doesn't become part of you until it's absorbed into the wall. Well, this gut tube, if it turns out that you're not taking proper care of it, you can end up absorbing more toxoid than you're absorbing nutrition, and that can create, of course, a lot of health issues. Just like the last program where we talked about the lawn analogy, where if you stop watering your lawn, it's going to stay green and eventually it'll brown up. Once it's brown, you can start watering your lawn, but you're going to have to stay consistent at it before you're going to see green again. Well, if changes happen really within a week, you can get a significant amount of comfort and a significant amount of change in how your gut tube actually works in a week, once you're educated as to what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. And of course, we're going to add another component to anyone's health, and this is the component of personal responsibility and discipline.
Now, that can be difficult because there are people, as we talked last week, Ali, and I just want to ask you this question briefly. We talked about excitotoxins and how they stimulate pleasure centers, receptors in the brain. And children who've been fed a lot of course, when we feed ourselves a lot of these things over time, we become addicted to them. There are people in friends. Sharon has started a weight loss group on Facebook to share some of the things that she's learned just in her journey, dropping over 100 pounds. But there are people who will say things like, I can't give up my diet sodas. I can't give up my Cokes. I can't give up my Pepsis. I can't give up my Dr. Peppers, whatever. I can't give up my, fill in the blank. There's one food that they seem not to be able to give up. As parents, how difficult is it for us to say to a child who's now used to consuming these foods with these excitotoxins, how difficult is it for us to say, okay, no more. You're going to have this healthy snack instead?
The thing that I would recommend is the same way that Dr. Ralph is suggesting that we take personal responsibility. We've talked about the fact that we can't rely on the FDA or someone else to really screen what we're putting into our bodies. Ultimately, we are the one who lifts our fork and puts it to our mouth.
Right.
We're the ones who put a plate in front of our child and tell them what to eat. It's important that as we are taking personal responsibility for what we're eating and what we're feeding our kids, that we're teaching them to take personal responsibility as well. We've taught them bad habits in one direction, but we can unteach those habits and reteach them in a different direction. And in doing that, you explain to them, these are not the same fruit snacks you've been eating. Today we're going to eat a cut up apple. And here's why. And if this isn't as exciting, I don't like this food, it's not as yummy. Well, give it some time. Your body is going through an adjustment period,
Right,
and eventually this wholesome food will be something that your body can grow to appreciate in the same way, and maybe even more so than the previous food that you were used to. But if they understand why,
and if we demonstrate it as parents too, is like, hey, look, mom is going to do this, dad is going to do this, we're all going to do this together. In other words, I as a father can't tell my, say, 6-year-old daughter, okay, you're going to eat these apple slices while I'm over here munching on a bag of Cheesy Poofs.
No, you can't.
You have to demonstrate and live it. And I think you make a really good point. We can't trust the government to be the last line of defense around our children. That is our role as parents and grandparents.
Right. Yep. And I just want to clarify a couple of things before we run out of time. That's exactly what TIMEBOMB is. It's really it's a field guide to how to grocery shop, how to navigate grocery shopping, how to make better decisions when you go out, how to read through the label game. Can I trust an organic label? Can I afford to eat organically? What are the ingredients I should be avoiding? I want to make it very clear, TIMEBOMB is not a biography. There's enough in there about my personal story so that you kind of know where I got started. My journey that ultimately led to my TIMEBOMB, and I can't leave you hanging at the end of the surgery. The whole point is that when I went through a panel of wonderful doctors like Dr. Ralph, Josh Vance, who's going to be coming up here in the next week or so, as a part of our TIMEBOMB discussion, when I finally got my head wrapped around the idea that natural, holistic, God-given medicine can help me start reversing this stuff, it took some months of belief for my body to catch up with my head, but the reality is I am next to a normal guy again today for the first time in 20 years.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said about me. Oh, you meant you. Okay, still sorry.
So the point is, this is stuff that has worked for me, and as I've discovered through my research and through Allie's research, I'm just one of gazillions of people that are finding when they change their thinking from the dependency on kind of the primary care institutions of our traditional medicine and things like that, and they look at alternative medicines, natural medicines, herbal medicines, and lifestyle change, if they'll live it committed, there's a ton of stuff that you can put into remission, into reversal, that you have been indoctrinated to believe is genetic, it's hereditary, there are no cures for these, and you got to understand that some of this stuff gets scoffed at, so be ready. If you start regaling people, hey, I learned in TIMEBOMB, I can fix the following things, be ready, because some of the folks that are absolutely plugged into the conventional systems of thinking around our healthcare may scoff. That's not real. That's not. We're advanced. We've got machines that can tell us things. But I'm telling you from personal experience, there's hope. TIMEBOMB is not a biography. It's a book filled with hopeful things that you can do immediately to read through the smokescreen and start making the life transition for you and your family.
So healing from the inside out instead of trying to just address symptoms from the outside in.
It is not a diet book. It is not a diet book.
Yeah. Well, just a couple of minutes left. Let's get on to this week's weekly Skywatch TV TIMEBOMB Challenge. and I may have messed the name up. And
That's okay.
The Time Bomb Skywatch TV channel. What ingredient or additive are we going to try to eliminate from our diets this week?
So the whole month long, as we're doing the Time Bomb weekly Skywatch TV challenge, what we're doing is we're encouraging you to start with baby steps, making a transformation to a healthier lifestyle. Last week, we eliminated sodium nitrates and sodium nitrites. You're going to be looking at labels for that. This week, we want you to cut out, and we challenge you to cut out, starting immediately, another little baby step. Your family will love you, your kids will love you more. High fructose corn syrup.
That's in everything.
It's in almost everything, so it should be easy to discover. You're going to have to cut that one out. The liver is the only organ in the body that can break this stuff down.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, but our bodies are supposed to be primarily fat burners. And there's more nutritional energy in a certain amount of fat than there is in the appropriate amount of proteins or sugars, equal amount. So most of us have trained our chemistry to be sugar burners. And not all sugars are created equal. Some sugars can enter the body without scaring the pancreas and spiking an insulin response. As an example, if you take somebody who's diabetic, many diabetics who are type 2 diabetics can get by with eating raw honey, and it won't injure their blood sugar profiles. But of course, if they have commercial grade honey, oftentimes they'll add sugar, fructose, and some other things to maintain a sweetness integrity throughout the year.
Right.
Because flowers will have more sugar content in some parts of the year than others. Well, raw honey has enzyme activity still preserved within the honey itself. It wasn't pasteurized or cooked. So then when you eat it, it turns out that these enzymes help regulate the rate at which the blood sugar does enter the bloodstream, and it does it slow enough where it doesn't scare the pancreas. The problem with high fructose corn syrup is essentially it doesn't just enter the body, it kicks down the door with guns a-blazing. And as far as your body's concerned, your
It's
pancreas
like the SWAT team of sugar.
Exactly. It's like having SEAL teams arrive at your front door. You know, it's a scary moment for your pancreas. And what ends up happening, of course, the pancreas then has a response, which throws out too much insulin. So if you're the type of person who you require a certain amount of sweet, you're taking your time, you don't just jump into the deep end of the pool, you're wading in that direction. And there are people that can do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. We don't want to disparage that. We're going to applaud baby steps because that's how anybody gets anything done. You eat the elephant one bite at a time. But once you arrive there, then you get all these benefits. The biggest part I would like for a lot of listeners to grab onto is this idea of personal responsibility, because if you're not interested in your own life, and if you don't take the time, energy, and effort to invest in you, then who else is going to have time from their busy schedule to drop what they're doing to make sure you're okay?
Right.
And it doesn't typically happen. We have to fan the flame for personal responsibility and education, and then, of course, with the Holy Spirit's help, you can overcome certain difficult obstacles that lie before you.
So cut out high fructose corn syrup.
And of course, that's in sodas and used as a sweetener in many, many things. But yeah, raw honey can vouch for that. Have that just about every morning, in fact. Time Bomb is the book. Joe Artis Horn, Allie Anderson, the authors. Dr. Ralph Umbriaco joining us on the panel today. And we thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is Skywatch TV.